Keene. I'm the mayor of North St. Paul, and I want to thank all of you for coming on this late, beautiful summer day to renew old friendships and also to make, I think, a lot of new friendships, both institutionally and personally. It's, to me, one of the most exciting times in our city that I can remember when it comes to building and working towards the future of our community. Before I make any other comments, I'd like to introduce and acknowledge some of the guests, and then I think the university's representatives will also introduce others in the room. But I'd first like to introduce the city council members who are here. And I think we have 3 of the 4. Council member Jan Walczak, Council member Scott Thorson, and Council member Candy Peters. Oh, they're right in front of me and I can't see it. And then Council member Terry Furlong, who's a private businessman, couldn't get away from his business today. I also want to introduce the new guy on the block, our new city manager, Jason Zemer, who just started on Wednesday with the city of North St. Paul. Welcome. We're very excited, and I think Jason's coming at a real exciting time as well in the community. And I also want to quickly acknowledge as well our former city manager, Mr. Wally Weisapel, who was a real organizing force and encouraging the submittal of the application to the university, which is leading to the program that we're going to be doing this academic year. I'd also like to introduce the representative of Congresswoman McCollum's office, Matt Hilger, who's up in the front here. And we also have my good friend and former North St. Paul City Council member, our state representative, Leon Lilly. And clap for him. We need to clap for Leon because he's on the vice chair of the Legacy Committee, he's on the Bonding Committee, he's on the committee that deals with environment and natural resource funding. So we hope a lot of these ideas that we will be formulating this academic year will maybe need some help from the state. And I know Leon and also our state senator, Chuck Uyghur, who's also a North St. Paul guy, Chuck was unable to join us today, but I know he'll be a big help as well. So I want to thank our legislators as well. I know we have, which is part of the idea for today, is to have a lot of our commission members of the city to attend to learn about the various programs. And I'm wondering if all of our, and it'll be about a third of the room, but if the members, the people in the room who serve on our commissions, if they could just stand up, and maybe we'll start up here, and you could just give your name. All of you stand up, and then go around and just shout out your name and what commission you're on. We'll start with back.
Planning Commission. You can call it Parks Commission.
Dave Sebastian, EDA.
Paul Anderson, Design Historic Review Commission.
Nancy Thorson, Parks and Rec Commission.
Jerry Bell, EDA.
I know there's more.
Alan Ronstager, Environmental Advisory.
Jim, Dave, come on, there's more.
Dave Nelson, EAG.
I think we covered, we got Glenn from the Environmental Commission, Glenn Olson. Well, thank you, all of you, for taking time out of your schedule. I also want to introduce some of the other staff, because I know we've had a lot of staff work going to this, and particularly up in the front here, I want to recognize Nate Aho. Nate is our Community Development Director. He is the point person in the city for dealing with the Resilient Community Program, and I know he's put a lot of hours in already, and he will be the kind of the go-to guy, and I think he's excited about it. I know he is. He has to be. I also want to introduce Paul Ammerman. Paul is our Economic Development Director, and he will also be working with a lot of the programs, and just told me he's already been at one class at the U already, so I think that's great that we're off and running on this. We also have our, let's see, our fire chief slash public works director slash after hours phone operator, whatever else, Scott Dudek in the back, and we have Steve, Steve Simpson, right? No, how did I get that so goofed up? From the electrical department, representing the electrical department, we have Tom Loff, our police chief. We also, someplace here, have two folks that worked really hard, and we've been blessed with a really good intern program in the city. And we have two of them here, one who worked in a consulting role. Jessica, who started, Jessica Anderson, is leaving us, so today is her last day, is Jessica Bisey. And Jessica is going to be going to the city of Victoria, working as an assistant to the city manager there. And we also have John Fury, who's been with us for about a year, who is out of, we shouldn't probably say this, but I think Hamlin, the School of, Graduate School of Public Administration. Good place though. Did I cover the staff? Did I miss anybody? If not, I apologize. Who did I miss? Oh, Lori. Lori is our PR go-to person for lots and lots and lots of things, and is a great organizer and a real asset. And we're glad that Lori is here, and Lori is also going to be very involved with the Resilient Community Program on behalf of the city. So I'm going to save a few very brief remarks, maybe for a little bit later. But at this time, I'd like to call on Carissa Shively-Slaughterbeck, who's the director of the university's program. So I'm going to try to teach you how to use this mic.
Thank you. So, in case you're on Twitter and want to tweet a little bit while you're hearing the presentations today, our Twitter account is here, RCP-UMN. I know there's a few in the room who've tweeted for us in the past. But I'm here to introduce the Resilient Communities Project. Mayor Keene provided a great introduction and some highlights on this. I'm going to talk a little bit about the university side, the collaboration that we're hoping to have this year. So the Resilient Communities Project is intended to connect the University of Minnesota with communities to advance sustainability and resilience. And I'll talk about what we mean by those two things on the next slide. And the way that we do this is by facilitating a one-year community partnership with Resilient Communities Project as the intermediary, making matches between local project priorities and classes and expertise knowledge that exists at the University of Minnesota. Okay, so I've said sustainability and resilience on the previous page. What we're talking about here, and what we really saw reflected in the projects that North St. Paul was interested in, is a real commitment and interest in sustainability and resilience. So when we're talking about sustainability, we're thinking about interconnectedness. We're thinking about the connections across systems, from infrastructure to health, to people, to social, to equity, to housing, to transportation. Thinking explicitly about the connections across those systems in the community. We're also thinking about the interdependence that exists among what we traditionally call the 3 E's, environment and equity and economy, or social systems as well. And it's really about taking a long-term perspective, thinking about the long-term implications of the decisions that we're making today in communities and the effects that they'll have down the road on future generations and even beyond. And when we think about resilience, what we're talking about is really adaptive or responsiveness to changing circumstances. So there are many things that are changing in the world around us. We have changing demographics, we have changing economic system, we have changing politics. Being explicit and really getting ahead of those changes is what Resilient Communities Project is about. And I think that's one thing that was really reflected in the projects that North St. Paul identified. Just a consciousness of the changes that are happening around them, and really thinking strategically about how to respond to those changes and really position the city of North St. Paul for the future. So how does it work? We select one community per year through a competitive process, and it was competitive this year. There were 7 proposals that came in from communities in the Twin Cities metro area, and North St. Paul clearly rose to the top. I think they had a great commitment to sustainability, a very, very clearly identified set of projects that related to existing plans and policies, and were just very coherently and really effectively and persuasively described. They had a clear sense of the partners that they might be able to bring to the table, and that really created a lot of excitement to not just do valuable work here, but really extend it even beyond the community of North St. Paul. So we were very, very excited to select North St. Paul this year from the 7 proposals. So again, how it works is that the partner community in that proposal identifies local project priorities, thinking about what does the community want to accomplish in the next year? What are some key priorities that are going to help move the ball down the field in that community in terms of sustainability and resilience? North St. Paul came up with about 20 projects in the proposal that they submitted to us, a huge range of different issues, and we'll show you the list in a few minutes. Based on that list, the community works with Resilient Communities Project to scope the projects, figure out what the project looks like, what are the particular needs, what are the outcomes that the community wants to achieve, who are some potential partners and stakeholders to bring to the table, and then we at the University and Resilient Communities Project do the matchmaking, matching up expertise that exists in courses among students who are taking classes at the university, who will then complete that work as part of their regular coursework, doing relevant work in the community and producing products that are going to be readily usable by the community. It could be reports or maps or data or analyses or best practice studies, a whole range of different products coming out of this. So there are 2 basic objectives with Resilient Communities Project, and one is to very much focus on addressing those local priorities, and that's why at the outset we're asking communities to tell us what are the priority projects that you want to work on. We then work with the community to respond to those in the most effective way that we can, really ensuring that we deeply understand the context for the projects, the history associated with them, the staff and resources and data, and a whole range of issues that might be associated with us just doing a good job in actually tailoring the work that we're doing to the community of North St. Paul. We want to bring the best available approaches that balance environment and equity and economy, those 3 E's that we talked about. And I think that's an opportunity that we have, in particular with students who are really, really interested in these issues of sustainability, but want to do it in a practical way. And I think this creates a tremendous venue for that to actually happen. And then the second objective, in addition to the work that we're doing in communities, we're also providing a great opportunity for students that in many cases they're not getting, and that is real-world opportunities to gain learning related to sustainability, and also gain learning about how to work with communities and how to really tailor their work and understand local context, understand what's going on in those communities, understand the perspectives of staff and the public, and do work that really responds to local context. They're gaining practical knowledge about communities and also the issues that they're dealing with, and they're learning how to produce products that are not just for an academic audience, but for a real audience of decision makers, elected officials, city staff, and beyond. And I think we're really interested in training the next generation of practitioners. We want to be training students who can go out into the field and do this work of sustainability and resilience and bring new perspectives to the field and sort of bringing in this bigger perspective in the work that we're doing in North St. Paul and other communities. So just to acknowledge a little bit in terms of resources, we have support for the Resilient Communities Project from a couple of research centers, research and outreach centers at the University of Minnesota, the Institute on the Environment and the Center for Urban and Regional Affairs. They provide us direct support as well as staff support for this, and they've been tremendous supporters in making this program viable, allowing us to make connections, enhancing our visibility at the university, and I want to just acknowledge them at this point for the support that they've provided us over the last couple of years. And also acknowledge the Sustainability Faculty Network, which is a network of faculty at the University of Minnesota who are interested in advancing sustainability education and really see this kind of work in communities as critical to the way that we do education and sustainability. We can't be teaching about sustainability if we're not providing students with opportunities to do this work in communities in a way that's grounded and is practical. And last, before I turn it over to Nate to talk a little bit about North St. Paul and the projects that are coming up, I want to just highlight a few of the staff who've been involved in this project. So myself, I serve as director of the Resilient Communities Project. I'm also a professor in the Urban and Regional Planning program at the Humphrey School at the University of Minnesota. Mike Greco serves as the RCP program manager, and he's also the managing editor at the Center for Urban and Regional Affairs. Nancy Ferber, who is in the back, taking photos and doing lots of other things for us today, is our new program coordinator and also a graduate assistant in the Humphrey School and at Institute on the Environment at the University of Minnesota. And then Barrett Colombo is around, oh, right here, sorry. Barrett is our outgoing RCP program coordinator and also a program associate at the Institute on the Environment. And I also want to acknowledge in particular Madeline Giefer, who helped at the front desk today. She's a student who works at the Institute on the Environment, and also Molly Boos, who's not here, who helped a lot with coordinating this event and provided a tremendous amount of support related to getting this set up, and worked a lot with Lori, who I want to acknowledge as well, who's been fantastic to work with. And also dozens of faculty, and many of whom are in the room. If you're a faculty member who's going to work on an RCP project this year, do you mind standing? There's a few here, and many more who will be joining us as the year goes on. And then hundreds of students, and I think there are a few here today, obviously not hundreds of them here in the room, but hundreds of students across probably dozens of classes at the university. So if you're a student who's going to work on a project this year, potentially, please stand up. Yeah. There are definitely more out there. In many cases, the projects are just getting started. This is the first week of classes, so some students don't even know that they're going to work on this yet, but they'll find out soon enough. So I just want to acknowledge the staff who do a lot of really great work and who are really, really excited on the RCP side to work with North St. Paul, and then excited to bring in the faculty and the students to be able to work on these great projects with North St. Paul. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Nate Ahalt, the Community Development Director with North St. Paul.
Good afternoon, I'm Nate Ahalt with the City of North St. Paul, and I just first of all want to say thanks to our council members. It's because of their vision and their foresight that we find ourselves here this afternoon. But I had to think a little bit further about where the culture of sustainability has come from within our community. And it actually dates all the way back to Henry Castle, one of our visionary leaders. And he really put the city on a tremendous trajectory to be able to think about how important it is to have good commerce within our community, good jobs within our community, quality housing within our community. And by instilling that within the residents of our community, we've been able to carry that forward. And we find ourselves here today, I believe, because of that and what our council members have been able to bring forward, as well as all of our commission members. I want to thank RCP, obviously, for selecting North St. Paul. We are very, very excited. We're very excited to be working with the university. Certainly, we look at this as an opportunity for us to take another step for another 126 years of sustainability within North St. Paul. We did identify 21 projects within our application, everything from live-work housing, how we start to take a look at new redevelopment strategies for underutilized parcels within our community, how we start to focus on a new branding effort for North St. Paul, not only how we focus on branding within our community, but how we bring folks from the outside to North St. Paul, whether it be businesses, new developers, or residents looking to reside in our community. We're going to be looking at how we utilize our electric utility, making sure that it continues to be a great sustainable operation for the city of North St. Paul, and how we can better utilize that for our residents. We're looking at projects from possibly even looking into our fiber optics, if we are able to find some matches for that. And I know that Mike, I believe, is going to talk a little bit about the project matches that we, I believe, have to date. And we're going to continue to look at opportunities for the spring semester as well. Some other items that we're looking at are potential public art, of how we continue to integrate that within the city of North St. Paul, as well as some environmental initiatives, how we utilize the park systems that we have, how we market those park systems, and make sure that they are sustainable and ready to use for the next generations over the next, hopefully, hundreds of years that North St. Paul will be in existence. But again, I just want to thank all of you for coming here this afternoon. I'm going to turn it over to actually Matt Hilgart, who's going to deliver a message from Congressman McCollum's office. And we look forward to working with all of you over the next year. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Hilgard, and I work in Congresswoman Betty McCollum's district office. I have a short congratulatory letter to read on her behalf today. Dear friends, thank you for inviting me to participate in the Kickoff for the Resilient Communities Project in North St. Paul. I regret that the congressional schedule does not allow me to join you today, but would like to congratulate you on this project. The city of North St. Paul is a wonderful city in which to live, work, and raise a family. As the city and region experience changes in demographics, local leaders are challenged to adapt, and seek creative solutions to encourage sustainable growth. This partnership with the University of Minnesota is an exciting opportunity to engage with students and faculty across a range of academic disciplines, from design, planning, and engineering to business, environmental sciences, and humanities. I have no doubt that collaboration between these partners will provide innovative opportunities for the city and its residents. Congratulations on this strategic partnership. I look forward to hearing about your successes as the year goes on. Sincerely, Betty McCollum, Member of Congress.
Matt said he wasn't a real good public speaker, but I think he did a great job once he took that step back. I just wanted to add a few comments about Congresswoman McCollum. And she served, of course, on the North St. Paul City Council for 6 years. That's where she got her political start and went on to the state legislature. But we all know, and sometimes she publicly won't admit it, but she has a special place in her heart for our community. And she is going to, I think, be a huge resource from the federal end on things that these programs are going to lead to in terms of implementation. We've also had some success in recent months in developing a working relationship with staff members both in Senator Franken's office and Senator Klobuchar's office. And with all the sequestration issues and things, you don't think the federal government, that programs still aren't there, but they do exist, and they are there, and certainly we'd like to improve on them. But there are funding potentials with HUD and EPA and the other programs that come out of Washington. The Small Business Administration is another one. So I know we'll have a good working relationship with our congressional delegation, and that kind of our first turn is always to Betty's office. So Matt, we keep on guard down there for us. This is a great part of the program because after I make a few comments, I get to invite everybody to take a break and have dessert. So, Lori, you did a great job organizing the agenda that the mayor gets to be the good guy and let people know when there's dessert. The bad side of that is, of course, I'm going to talk for a few minutes before the dessert. And I don't have prepared remarks because I didn't want to prepare them today, but and that's always dangerous because I make go on. So, Leon, if I go too far, come and give me a chokehold or something. But North St. Paul is, we like to talk, us residents, we feel we're a very unique community, and we look at ourselves as a freestanding community that kind of got surrounded by suburbia. And it worked well for us. We started as a railroad community, and the railroad came through town, and it supported the business base, and Henry Castle, the founder of the town, developed it as a factory town. It's always been a blue-collar, working guys kind of a town, hence why we still have 8 bars on Main Street. And I think so the town did really well. We had a very prosperous community, and that continued after World War II. It continued with being a freestanding community. We had a great basis here with grocery stores. In fact, when I was a kid, I think there were 5 grocery stores in our town, and we had a number of other places that people came to do trade from throughout the area. And with the 70s and the development of shopping malls and kind of these sub-regional centers, the city kind of got somewhat passed over. Our retail started to decline. There was more struggles. There was certainly smaller tax base. We're 3.1 square miles. We were landlocked. We couldn't do much new development. And so we started to flounder a little bit. And several years back, I think we all of a sudden woke up a little bit. And I'm still too close to that. And so we ended up with, I'll try over here. So we ended up with trying to build for our future and working hard at it. When I became mayor 5 years ago, we set up a task force which led to the creation of our Economic Development Authority, which we did not have before. We were very fortunate to have my good friend Jerry Bell, who's here today, who, for those who don't know, Jerry doesn't want to get buried, but Jerry was the past president of the Minnesota Twins, and he has offered great viability to our economic development. He offers that instant credibility. And I think we've worked really hard then as an EDA the last 3 years, and we're starting to see some successes with that. But I think it's really important. To me, this is probably the perfect time and the best thought process that we can be doing now, is engaging in these number of various ideas to try to build towards the future of our community. And as Nate said, it covers a cross-section of issues in the city: environmental issues, business issues, economic issues, senior issues. I think that's all those things are very important to our community. I know we have some representatives, I think, of the school district in the room as well. And this is, by the way, this building now is a collaborative effort. This was built as the North St. Paul Community Center, and beginning early this year, we did a lease agreement with the school district, and they're now running a number of school district programs out of this facility. And we appreciate that. We also appreciate the fact they let us use the room today, because it's under their lease arrangement. But we think there's a lot of room to collaborate and work on things in the future. And one of those areas that we've strived is through economic development is to look at how we can better connect our high schools with universities. We even made a trip up to Bemidji State in the early days of our economic development to talk with the folks up there, and they came down. But I think one of the things that's so important is to have that education, a well-trained education base. And I hope that some of the work here will also lead to continued working between the university and our city and our school district for the ideas of creating some specialized expertise or classes at the high school. We lose, frankly, some students in our community who go to Montemita, and you talk to their parents and they say, well, they got great math and science classes. I don't know if they're any better than ours or not, but that's the perception. I'd like to see us be able to come up with some ideas as well with our school district, that it's a great place if you want to specialize in environmental education or medical training or whatever that is. And I'm hoping that some of our partnering with the university will also lead to that. And of course, we've checked on this stuff, Chris and Mike. We know that you still have a great working relationship with Minnetonka, which was the first year where they did the project. And we aren't going to let you go ever, you know that. You might move to another city. We're going to keep your phone numbers because we know you're going to be great resources for us as we continue to work hard for our community and make it a better community. So I do think, I know that we have a population in our city that is very stable. They care about their neighborhoods, they care about the downtown, they care about their taxes, they care about lots of stuff. But I think what they really care about is that we continue to have a really great place to live here. Nice housing variety, affordable housing. We think a quality school system. We think great city services. So that's kind of what we hope to improve on. And we cannot thank the university enough. We will forever be indebted to you for picking us, and I really sincerely mean that. So with that, I will stop my comments because I see them slicing the cake. And let's take a brief break, and then I think Mike and Chris are going to come back, and then we're going to talk about the remaining time, the details of some of the programs the students and faculty will be working on. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here for this great program. We want to wrap up the program by just highlighting the range of work that's going to happen over the next 9 months or so. So again, North St. Paul wrote a really, really great proposal, and we have some folks who are on the review committee for the proposals in the room besides the Resilient Communities Project staff. And I think it was clear that the proposal was well thought out, well supported, made strong connections to sustainability, and I think really built on the strong sort of track record and innovation that the city of North St. Paul has had and has done just really a lot of interesting work over the past few years, or over its long history, I should say. And I think the prospects for partnerships, and I know we have some of the partners who are associated with some of these projects in the room as well, and that's really an exciting piece as we kick off the program. I think, again, I just want to highlight the enthusiasm and just the passion that we've experienced in working with the staff, and having just met Mayor Keene today. I think enthusiasm from elected officials as well, and just the turnout from City Council and the commissions in the room is really exciting, and it shows that there's really a lot of buy-in for the work that's going to be happening here. So I'm excited to be able to bring students from the university to this community to interact with folks who really want this partnership and really see a lot of benefits associated with it. I think we're also really excited about this partnership on the university side because of the diversity of projects. There's a tremendous range of topics that are associated with these projects, and that makes it great for us because we can really connect across the university. We want to provide opportunities not just in planning and design, but really create connections and opportunities for sustainability education and resilience and community-based work across the university, even in areas like IT and human resources and other areas where we're not really necessarily doing this kind of community-based work. So we're excited, sort of for selfish reasons, in that we can extend our reach at the university and provide these opportunities for students. So this is the long list in very small text of the projects. There's so many that we have to make the text small, but we wanted to show you all of them. And Nate hit on a few of these, and we're going to talk about a few more as well. But there are 21 projects in that blue box on the left. Those are the projects that were identified by North St. Paul, have risen to the top as key priorities to work on in the next year. So we have things like live-work housing and aging in place. We have issues related to trail connections and environmental education associated with natural resources in the community. We have work related to green energy, neighborhood identities. Nate mentioned fiber optic as well, emerald ash borer, development of underutilized parcels, and community branding, and a whole range of issues. And then we're able to match those up with, there's 21 departments there as well, and I think that the list of departments will grow even a bit more over the year. So really stretching across the range of expertise at the university, from housing studies and engineering and law school and urban and regional planning, environmental education, forestry, agronomy, social work, recreation resource management, and a whole bunch of others that are there, and in many cases represented by some faculty and students who are in the room. So we're really, really excited to be able to have that great diversity of projects and to be able to connect with a whole bunch of students who maybe hadn't thought about projects like this in the past. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike Greco, the Resilient Communities Project program manager, in a couple of minutes. But I think as we look across these projects, I think what's really exciting, and I think that really gives the staff in this community and the elected officials and others in this community passion, is that there's a clear sense of what they want to accomplish. And I think there's 4 basic things, sort of categories for these projects. And one is just an attention to responding to changing conditions. And one of the things that was really impressive in the proposal is just a good sense of what's going on around this community and what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that this community is facing, and how can they be more strategic in actually responding to them. And that gets to that issue of resilience, which I think is really important as a community changes over time and really positions itself for the future. Another key area that we're seeing kind of as a trend or sort of topics that cut across these projects is really advancing community competitiveness. So this is a community that's changed over the years, the communities around it have changed, the environment has changed, and I think the city is really, really being proactive and thinking about how can this community be competitive in the new economy, in the way that other communities are dealing with competitiveness and changing their economies. I think really thinking strategically about development and redevelopment, and a number of projects fall into that area. Number 3 is building on innovation. Again, I've said innovation a few times, but one of the things that North St. Paul has done a lot of work on green energy, they've done a lot of work on living streets and green infrastructure, they've done a lot of work related to environment, and a whole range of areas that a lot of communities aren't really getting into. And I think to be able to take that work that they've already started doing to the next level is a tremendous opportunity with these projects, and to do it quickly and with an immense amount of bodies and hours to be spent on it in the next year is really exciting. And then the last one is engaging residents and stakeholders. If you look across these projects and the details of them that were in the proposal, many of them had components that were about better connecting with the public, better connecting with stakeholders, providing opportunities for the public to be involved in decision-making related to community gardens and public art and living streets and a whole range of other topics. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who's going to highlight some of the projects that fit within these categories. But again, I just wanted to express sort of the key overarching motivations that we're seeing in these projects that are really exciting and sort of knit them together, even though they cover a pretty wide range of topics.
Thanks, Carissa. My name is Mike Greco. I'm the program manager for the Resilient Communities Project. So it's my very fun job to work with the city, take the list of projects they've come up with, and match those to courses at the University of Minnesota. And that's something we've been working on pretty much since spring, when we'd selected North St. Paul as our partner community. We don't have time to go through all the projects, certainly, and all the courses we've matched. Some of you might have come in before this appeared on the registration table, but it's a pretty comprehensive list of the projects, the courses that we've matched with them thus far, and what those courses are doing. So if you want more detailed information about the projects, I'd suggest you pick one of these up on your way out, and certainly visit our website throughout the year. Follow us on Twitter, where we'll be providing updates about the projects on an ongoing basis throughout the year. But I did want to talk about a couple of the projects, and again recognize some of the faculty and students who are here with us today, and recognize the work that they're going to be doing. Carissa mentioned responding to changing conditions, and like many communities across the state, the city of North St. Paul is dealing with a rapidly aging population. Most cities' populations are trending older these days. And so one of the projects that I want to talk about is the Aging in Place project. The community is very interested in making sure that North St. Paul is a place where, as residents age, they feel like they can stay here. Whether that's staying in their own home, making improvements or updates to it in order to be able to continue to live in their home, or moving somewhere else but staying in the community. And so this project is one that's been really exciting just because of the number of different departments and courses we've been able to identify that can provide input on this project. So as I mentioned people's names, faculty members or students, if you just briefly stand up, and I'll just say a little bit about each course. Lynn Bruin, is Lynn here? She was. Oh, there she is. Lynn's teaching a course called Promoting Independence in Housing and Community, and her students this fall semester will be doing a needs assessment, looking at what some of the needs are that residents have related to aging in place, and then making recommendations, policy recommendations, regulatory changes the city might consider to help residents age in place. Lisa Edstrom is teaching a course in the gerontology department. Her students will be looking at multidisciplinary perspectives on aging. So they come from various backgrounds: public health, public policy, some are in medical fields, and they'll be looking at perspectives on aging, what it means to age, what it means to age in place, specifically what it means to age here, and providing recommendations based on their disciplinary background for helping residents age in place. Stacy Remke teaches in the School of Social Work. She was here earlier, I think, and had to leave. And she'll be teaching a course called Practices on Health and Aging. And her students will actually be doing in-home assessments with residents in the city who volunteer to participate, helping them to walk through their home and think about what it is about their physical environment, some of their social needs, health needs, educational needs, caretaking needs, are where there are gaps, basically, that the city or community partners, social services, could help to fill. So that gives you an idea of how we take a project, we work with the city to think about more broadly what the issues are behind the project that they've proposed, and then do what we can to find courses that will meet part or all of the needs of some of those projects. Advancing community competitiveness. That's one particular area where I think we've got probably the greatest range of different kinds of projects. Not all of them are listed up here. I just want to talk about two. The Community Identity and Branding Project is really the city's effort to think about its historic identity. It's a working class community. It's a community with an industrial and manufacturing history. It has a lot going for it, and a lot of things that can really make it competitive in the new economy, and finding ways to sort of remarket itself, rebrand itself to be competitive, but also to think about how to create a community identity that residents can embrace. So they see this as a place in which they are rooted, again, a place where they want to stay, where they want to age, and really have a real deep sense of what it means to be a North St. Paulite. Is that the appropriate term? North St. Paulite? Okay. So we have a couple faculty members here today. Deb Lawton will be teaching a course on identity and symbols. I thought I saw her earlier, but maybe not. Her students are in the graphic design department, and so they will be looking at creating some kind of a new graphic identity, a new logo that incorporates the snowman. That's been one of the things we've been told over and over and over and over again. You must keep the snowman. So they will have a challenge to find creative ways to work the snowman into a different kind of design. And this will be a design that can be used for signage, that can be used for the entryway signage as you come into the community, but can also be used on things like the website, marketing materials that the city produces. So again, there's sort of this common brand that everyone recognizes immediately as North St. Paul. Virajita Singh will be teaching a course in design thinking in the spring that will then follow up on some of the work that's been done in the fall. And her students will be taking a look at sort of the how one thinks about design, how one thinks about branding, how one thinks about identity, and really picking it apart through a very iterative process that will involve residents coming to class, city staff members, elected officials, to really sort of react throughout the process to different types of designs that students come up with. The other project I want to talk about is downtown revitalization. This one is focused very much on the downtown core of North St. Paul here on 7th Street. As Mayor Keene mentioned, there have been some businesses that have left town, certainly others that have relocated within town. We have 2 courses that will be working specifically on downtown revitalization. Bob Streeter teaches a course in urban planning and public policy. His students will be working on compressing the downtown core, making sure that it's a more walkable area, and also identifying niche businesses that the community can try to attract to help keep the downtown vital. Lee Munich and Lissa Leitner are teaching a course in the spring, a capstone course also in urban planning, focused on economic development, and their students will be looking at the concept of a business improvement district that can help to revitalize the downtown area. Building on innovation is the third area. And here I'd like to talk about the Living Streets and Capital Improvements project. This is a project and a plan for which the city has been recognized really statewide for its innovativeness in finding a way to integrate concepts like complete streets, so including pedestrian and biking facilities along with auto-oriented facilities, but also to incorporate things like stormwater management innovations. Thinking about gardens and tree plantings along the boulevard to help shade homes and reduce energy consumption and make it a more pedestrian-oriented and walkable and friendly place. And so the city has implemented has adopted a Living Streets plan that they now want to implement. They want to do that in conjunction with their 20-year capital improvement plan, which is how the city invests money to improve public spaces. And we have two folks here who can represent that project. Carissa Slaughterback is going to be teaching a course on planning participation processes this fall, where students will be looking at how to engage residents so that they participate in the process of rethinking their streetscape and see the benefits of that kind of an approach that focuses not just on rebuilding the street, but really making it a living landscape and a place where the public can enjoy themselves. And then Aaron Garnis Holmes is a student in the Landscape Architecture and Master of Urban and Regional Planning program, a dual degree student. He'll be doing a capstone project, so this is the final project he does for his master's degree in his program that will be focused on this Living Streets policy and plan, and he'll be again looking at how to get public engagement, but also doing design prototypes for some of the streetscapes that the city might look at as it goes forward with implementing this plan. The Green Energy Initiative really takes advantage of the fact that the city has its own utility, which you probably passed on the way into town where the wind turbine is. So we have a couple courses that will be working on this. Jean Coleman teaches a course in the law school called Land Use, Energy, and the Environment. Her law clinic students will be looking at regulatory and policy changes that the city can adopt to encourage green energy. So how can we get residents to think about solar or wind or geothermal, businesses as well, and what kind of programs the city might think about instituting to encourage these sorts of innovations. This is also a good project to point out that we have community partners involved in many of these projects. So we have here today from CERTS, the Clean Energy Resource Teams, Diana McEwen and Amir Nadav, and they will be participating in various ways in these projects. We also have Phil Music from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. They'll be participating on other projects. So this is not just a partnership between the university and the city, but also reaching out to community partners that have a stake in these projects, want to work on these projects, and can be brought into the partnership in a constructive way to make sure that the work continues even after our one-year partnership, although we understand it's a lifelong partnership, is over. And the fourth area, engaging residents and stakeholders, just three projects here, sorry, that I'll quickly talk about. Environmental education. This is the city's effort to really help residents understand that they have some important and significant natural resources right here in North St. Paul. The Silver Lake area, the Southwood Nature Reserve. And so we have three courses, or three projects here I'll talk about. Angie Wang is teaching a course called User Experience and Design. Her students will be looking at how to design an educational process, kiosks, interpretive signage, but doing it from the perspective of the user. So what would a resident want to know about their natural environment to understand and experience it? Mary Hamness is doing a master's thesis in environmental science, policy, and management. She's going to be focusing her thesis project on the environmental education piece by looking at what residents already know about and how they relate to their natural environment. So if they live near Silver Lake, what do they think about the lake? How do they use it? What are other ways they might want to use it? Looking at local parks, that same perspective. And then she'll be able to provide the city with recommendations about how to help residents understand and appreciate their environment. And finally, we don't have a representative here, but I did want to mention we have a course at the University of Minnesota Duluth, so quite a distance away, who will actually be partnering on two different courses related to this project. One this fall that will be looking at a management plan for Southwood Nature Preserve, and then a spring course that will be looking at the environmental education piece. The Civic Engagement Project looks at really how does the community, how does the city engage with the community? What methods do they use to do that? How can they get residents involved and engaged on issues that they're concerned about? And we have here to represent this project Randy Nelson, who teaches a course on methods of evaluation. Her students will be doing an evaluation of the current communications efforts that the city engages in. So their newsletter, their website, their social media accounts, and helping the city think about how it might rethink those efforts to better engage with residents. And finally, public art plan. The city is very interested in using public art as a way to engage residents. And we have a faculty member here, Rosalie Olton, who's teaching a course in the spring, we think, on revitalizing arts and public parks. And her students would be looking at how to engage residents in creating a public art plan so that it's a meaningful plan for residents, but also how to think about how art can do things like create a place, and provide environmental education, maybe doing some kind of an art project around the natural areas in the city, and really helping, again, residents to connect to their community. So that was a very quick overview of about 12 projects that I could say hours more worth about. But again, please pick up the description outside if you want to know more. And we do encourage you to follow the process throughout the year to learn how these projects are progressing, and as we add additional classes to these projects to work on them. Thank you.
So I'm just going to wrap up with a couple more thoughts and then invite Mayor Keene up to thank you for being here. But there are additional projects, as Mike said, 21 right now, and we'll see how that number changes over the year. I think many partners who weren't mentioned, as well as lots of excitement, I think, on both sides, which is really great, and love to see all the people in the room who are engaged in this work as well. I think this project really positions North St. Paul to be resilient in the face of change. All of these projects, if you look at them, they're about responding to new conditions, to new challenges, and I think really to think about where North St. Paul can be, and also where the university can be 9 months from now, and the learning, the opportunity that we have on both sides is just, it's very, very exciting. I think I'll just wrap up with a little, one comment being, it's a one-year partnership, but really there are significant long-term prospects associated with it, maybe lifelong prospects for all of us. But we're really excited about the work that we'll be able to do here, and hopefully the relationships that we'll be building for the long term. So, Mayor Keene, I'll invite you back up.
Just one final thought. I think, when I graduated from the U in '73, I remember sitting in a class on campaigns and political strategy. I was like 22, but I had worked on about 2 or 3 campaigns at that time, and I go, this is textbook stuff. This is stuff that really isn't what I'm experiencing from my experiences out on the street helping candidates campaign for public office. And I think that's one of the things that I think is so wonderful about this program. It's hands-on, it's real, It's certainly something that I think is going to help the students tremendously, but more importantly, from my perspective, help our city tremendously. And we think, and I personally think, the city is a great laboratory for this. It's the right time for this. We want to advance. We want to move forward. We're working hard to build our community, to increase our tax base. So all those things I think are wonderful for this partnership. And I think, like everyone in this room, I'm very excited for things to get rolling here, and I'm glad we had this kickoff. I cannot thank all of you for spending an hour and a half with us today to kick off this project, and keep checking that. I'm going to have to learn how to check a Twitter thing because I'm not sure what that is, but I do know a website, and I do know a few other things, so Nate's going to teach me Twitter, I guess. But I'm just really excited, and I think we're all going to have a valuable experience here, students, faculty, residents of our community, city council and staff members. So I think it's great. Let's get it rolling, and thank you very much for joining us today.